Hello, my name is Sterling Fairhurst. This is my project for the Advanced Visual Frameworks class. So I'm going to be showing my code and my app functioning on both platforms, iOS and Android. So we'll get started. Here's my app.js file. So I actually go ahead and open my window here, go ahead and require my cloud file, require the function to run the function within that, and I have a global object here, which we'll get to in a bit. So moving on, going to our cloud file, we basically have a function here that's immediately going to run a conditional, and in that conditional, it's basically saying if we have connection, we're going to log into the cloud. And if that's successful, we're going to run our geolocation function, which will continue on our trail. Or else we're just going to go ahead and build the UI from the database, giving a little alert that we can't connect. So moving on to our geolocation module, we immediately require our API module. Let's see here. So we're making another function here, and we're basically going to say, I personally just made this, it's going to basically say, if your location services aren't enabled, it's going to basically make an alert saying you might want to turn on your GPS. So here we have another conditional. This is basically going to say if the user does approve of the authorization check, which asks if they can use their position and whatnot, we're going to go ahead and get those coordinates, latitude and longitude. Go ahead and input them in the latitude and longitude variables, which we'll use for later. And basically, if it's Android, we'll just hard code some coordinates in because, frankly, Android's a bit wonky when it comes to simulation. I actually had to do it here, otherwise it wouldn't run at all. I couldn't get a authorization message to pop up on Android as opposed to iOS. So basically, it's just going to make these coordinates for Android. Moving on, we actually need to pull up our API module. That's the next one. Here we are. So within our API, we're going to go ahead and require our data, which we're going to be using some things from data. And in our API function, this is where all the API stuff happens. We're going to call our API URL, go ahead and make our client. Let's see here. Yeah, basically just pull that API information. We're storing them into properties here. And we go ahead and push that to that global object we made. So then we can push that into an array here. And basically it's just this basically just handles the API, but at the bottom here we also do require the UI, just to pull whatever elements we need. And finally, last we get to data. Let's see here, we get to handle all the database stuff. So we're creating in our table, blah blah blah. And we also have a function here that saves to the cloud. We're not actually using that. Well, actually we are, but that's going to be in the cloud.js, though. That's going to be moved. And lastly, we have our event listener here just to finish off the chain of events. And that's basically just going to run this function, which I should actually put in the cloud.js, as I mentioned before. But that's basically going to, when I click on the window for now, I may make it a button, but for now you just click, and that's going to just push all of this, whatever I want to say to the cloud, to the cloud. So let's go ahead and see it in action here. We'll just pull up the emulator. We'll first start off in the iPhone. So as you can see, it's there we go. So what just happened was we have some conditionals here that changes the wallpaper depending on the current condition. Right now it says partly cloudy. So that's what that little animation was that you saw. So we have our temperature. We have a picture corresponding to, the conditions. It's partly cloudy. And we have the location, which are the coordinates that we actually just inputted in the iOS simulator. Now, once I click on this, you'll see that this console log will appear, basically saying that, yes, we just saved this to the cloud. And in theory, that should actually save up on Titanium's cloud storage. Now, as I mentioned before, we did basically, I created a bunch of conditionals for this background to change, and that's going to be in our UI, I believe. Yes, right here. We have many conditionals, and that's how we achieve that effect. Now, moving on, we'll just head over to Android. Now, here's our Android simulator or emulator. We're gonna go ahead and unlock it, and here we go. We have everything that we had on iOS. The icon appears to not like being transparent for some reason on Android. I don't know if there's really much I can do with that. That's more of the API's kind of responsibility. But other than that, everything stacks properly. I did put everything in a view here. So it is stacked in a vertical layout, and it stacks accordingly with adequate spacing. Now, the event listener should work here as well. As you can see, it saved to cloud. And yes, that's pretty much it. To give a brief overview of my flowchart and what's going on here. Basically, it's quite a modular design. So it's really easy to input new modules back and forth. So it's quite versatile that way. So here we have my app.js module. Do our requires, our functions and all that. Cloud.js function here. We have a conditional here. And it's pretty much just it's all pretty self-explanatory. It follows by the code for the most part, but I did make it quite modular. So if you did in fact want to add some new types of modules, for instance, maybe a media module, I could probably just slot it in here somewhere, and it makes it very easy to correlate things one to another, following the trail. Anyway, that's all. Thank you very much.